I'm making this video today because I want to talk about some problems with a character that I very much enjoy playing, that being Aramusha. I've enjoyed playing Aramusha since he's first come out, and I find him an incredibly enjoyable character to play. But he has a lot of flaws, and I would like to talk about them. Two flaws in particular that make him an incredibly flawed and broken character in both offense and defense. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of Aramusha's deadly feint and how it works, where if you perform a second heavy in the same direction as a previous attack, you can then perform a deadly feint by light attacking in another direction. This used to be really hard for people to deal with, as it was very fast, and no other character had an ability like this in the past. Nowadays, it's very easy to deal with because people have found out that if you just dodge backwards from his deadly feints, you cannot get hit. You're completely impervious to all options. If you dodge backwards, you don't get hit by the light feint. If you dodge backwards, you don't get hit by the heavy finisher. And if you dodge backwards, you'll completely negate the range of a feint into guard break. This simple trick of just dodging backwards from Aramusha's deadly feint mix-up completely negates his offense, which is the one thing that Aramusha is supposed to be good at. He is an offensive character, and without his deadly feint mix-up, he has no ability to aggress the opponent, to open them up, as he has no true opener. Aramusha needs some way to combat opponents from dodging backwards and catching them. Now, you can feint into one of Aramusha's forward dash heavy attacks, but they're really slow and can be easily blocked, parried, or even dodged themselves. What Aramusha needs is the ability to go straight from his deadly feint mix-up into a forward dash heavy. As it stands right now, you have to feint the heavy finisher and then dash forward and heavy, which is far too slow to catch back dodging opponents. And speaking of his forward dash heavies, it would be kinda nice if you could deadly feint them as well. Maybe not the top dash heavy, as it's a lot quicker and has hyper armor, but his side dodge heavies are essentially useless in an offensive capability, as they're very easy to see coming and easily parried. If they could be deadly feinted, that would make them a much more viable offensive tool. Now, the next issue with Aramusha's defense, while is not a very common issue, I find it incredibly frustrating when it does occur, and that is with Aramusha's blade blockade. If you're familiar with Aramusha, you know that he has a full guard ability. By moving your guard down, you can counter attacks from all directions. With a successful blade blockade, Aramusha has a couple of options he can perform as a response. He can either kick the enemy away by pressing the guard break button. He can perform a light attack, ring the bell, which is inescapable as it grapples the opponent and brings them in. He can do a side heavy, which is unblockable and has hyper armor, which you can also deadly feint into a light attack from either top or the opposite side. And finally, his last response is a top heavy, which has hyper armor. This top heavy response is where the problem lies. Normally, if Aramusha blade blockades a heavy attack, he can get a top heavy response. However, Due to how the attack works, there are some instances where even though you should be getting this top heavy as you have blockaded a heavy attack, the opponent can still successfully block your attack, and sometimes even without trying. The most common time that I come across this problem is when I am versing another Aramusha, because if an Aramusha blockades a heavy finisher, a top heavy finisher I should say, of another Aramusha, they will block that heavy without even trying. This is kind of a major problem since this is supposed to be the correct response to blockading a heavy attack, is to perform a top heavy attack of your own. But if the opponent is still able to block the attack, even without trying, it's just that their guard is in the same direction as your attack still, this is an issue. This shouldn't be the case. And this isn't the only case with Aramusha that he's able to block your top heavy response from a blockade. If Aramusha does either of his 4 dash heavies, be it top or side, he can still block the incoming top heavy from your blockade. If he does his top 4 dash heavy, he can block it without even trying. And if he does a side 4 dash heavy, then he still has enough time to move his guard to top and block your incoming heavy attack. Also, frustratingly enough, if Aramusha performs a top heavy and it is the second attack in his chain, then if you blockade it and perform your top heavy response, he can also block that without even trying. And as bad as that sounds, Aramusha isn't the only one that this is the case with. I have found 2 other characters that are able to successfully block your top heavy from a blockade when they're not supposed to. Kansei, with his second heavy, if you perform it from top, if an Aramusha blade blockades it, you can block the incoming top heavy without even trying. Shaman is the next character, which shocked me the most because she's an assassin with a reactive guard. If Aramusha blade blockades a heavy attack from Shaman, be it the first heavy or the second heavy, she has enough time to move her guard to the top in response to your heavy. While this might not seem like a big deal since only 3 characters, Aramusha, Kansei, and Shaman, are affected by this, it's a really big deal since there is no indicator that these characters can block this response. Since there is no in-game indicator for it, there is nothing written in their move lists for it. And this should be changed, since in the past, when Aramusha got some changes made to him, they changed his top light follow-up from a successful side heavy because new players found it frustrating that there was no indicator that the top light was free after a successful side heavy. There was no indicator for it, there was nothing written in the character's move list, so the developers removed it since players felt frustrated by this. And that's why I feel like this issue should be addressed. Even though it only affects a few characters, it is very frustrating since there is no reason why this should happen. I just had to talk about this issue because it has infuriated me for quite some time during my experience playing Aramusha. I love the character and I find him incredibly enjoyable to play, but there are just some issues that make him really annoying to play. If you found this video insightful or interesting in any way, please leave a like, share it around, let people know that this is an issue. Not because I want to make it harder for me to fight people in the future, but I feel like if this issue is spread enough and more people know about it, then maybe we can get this into the spotlight and let the developers know that this is a problem and it needs fixing. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and I'll see you all next time.